Hey, Tech with Tigre. I want to show you how to use layer masks in Photoshop to create an effect where something would be hiding behind something when it's really not. And the way I did that in this graphic that you can see on my screen is I took a flat photo that didn't have any layers to it. And since it has a nice hard edge that you can see on the screen with this card, I'm able to use vector masks and then layer masks to create a shadow effect to make it look like red coral background is going underneath it. So let's break it down. I've got my episode title. We can just take that off so it's not a distraction. I've got my Empath to Power logo. Subscribe. Lola's podcast is awesome. I can definitely attest to that. I'm editing it and I'm always enjoying it and learning new things. It's at empathtopower.com. Find it anywhere you have podcasts. So I'm going to hide that logo just so that we're dealing with less stuff. Now you'll see that I have, we'll expand this so you can see what my layer names are. We have card shadow. So the card shadow is this shadow that's happening right here. And if I hide the card background, you can see it a little clearer. So right now, shadow, if I hide unhide, is producing this shadow effect. So I hide that. Then we have our backgrounds, the episode title background. Open that, you'll see it has two shape files. The white that has the episode number and then the episode title is on the coral. And in that, I then also have a layer style. You can see the layer style of the drop shadow for the card shadow here. And I have a drop shadow, which is giving me this orangish glow, which I have just a consistent design style for all of our thumbnails for the podcast. And you'll see that it has a mask. Now there's a difference between these two masks. And I'm sure you can easily tell. One is dealing with black and white, and then some gray, if you can see this little fuzzy edge to it. And this other one has this gray with a black line around it on white. Now, the difference between vector and raster masking, well, there's a lot of things, but a main thing is that a vector mask is literally, can I see it? Can I not see it? And that's why it's not giving this gradation of black to white on a grayscale. With vector, you're literally saying, is it on or is it off? And right now, wherever it is gray is off in the sense that I can't see the rest of the box. So if I hold shift, you can see where our box is. Hold shift and click the thumbnail, it turns off our mask, and that can apply to any mask. And so if we do that, we see that, oh, wait, there's the rest of the box under there. But I don't want it to show under there because we have the card there, and I'm trying to create this effect of the background going underneath the card. So the background's going underneath the card with a vector mask. Now when I click on the mask and I press A, which is our white selection tool or direct selection tool, you can see this pink outline, this little magenta outline. And that's telling me where my paths are. And if I click where there's an obvious corner, or if I just hold down Option and then click the whole line, you can see where all my corners are. And you can set your corner preferences under preferences to see how big and change the handle shape and everything. But if I get the white tool, I can click it, move it around anytime I want. Like, oops, I can see the background. Oh, nope, back again. There you go. It's amazing the control you have, but you don't have that fine grain control with grayscale that you get with raster. Nice part about having a vector mask is that at any scale that I blow this up to, the mask will always be crisp. The raster mask, if I blow it up, I increase the resolution, it gets worse. Sometimes. It depends on the style of your mask, but it's always trying to have to guess what your mask should look like when you get bigger than the pixel information you had. So just keep that in mind. Vector is ideal if you can, especially with hard edges, soft edges, hair, that type of stuff, organic shapes. If they don't have a crisp edge, you're gonna wanna use a raster mask. So we're gonna go through and recreate this little shadow effect right here based on what I've got. So I'm gonna hide my white background. I'm gonna hide this card shadow, pretend like we never even made it. And what I'm gonna do is show you how I went through this. So I originally had the card, right? Straight edge, clean edge. I transformed it to make it the right size. And now what I get to do is I come into these backgrounds. I'm going to show the backgrounds, and let's just save this file. I'm going to select this. I'm going to delete. Okay. I'm going to make this a lot easier on myself. I'm not going to delete all my work. I'm going to take this down, and we're going to send this to the back and just hide it. And now I've got my episode title background. Let's delete this vector mask. And we're going to keep the drop shadow because that's the same drop shadow I had before. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my pen tool, and I'm going to make sure it's on path, not shape. Otherwise it'll draw its own layer. And I come in here, and I click on the edge. Since it's a straight line, I don't have to worry too much. I just come down to here. I want to cover up where the shadow edge is happening too, so I go a little bit wider. Doesn't really matter how perfect it is out here. So now we have our path. Nothing has been applied. There's no vector mask applied yet. Make sure I'm on the layer I want the vector mask on, and now I go right click, create vector mask. The only way you're going to see create vector mask is if you're still on the pen tool. Create vector mask. Awesome. It's hiding what I've drawn. Your default is probably going to be up here and actually on combine shapes, and it's going to do this. It's going to show you the inverse of what you want. Don't worry, just come up here and say subtract the front shape. Boom, now we see our bar. Cool, I'm going to press escape just to get away from that. Looks pretty good, you know, it's right on the edge. If I wanted to get really detailed about it, I just don't. The shadow is going to create the effect of it looking like it's going behind it versus this really harsh, crisp edge that we have right now. Cool. Got our episode title background. Now what I want to do is I want to use this exact same vector information for our shadow. So I'm going to press A again to show me when I'm on this layer, show me our vector mask. Option click to select the whole path. I could also draw a box around. Notice I missed that corner. You can draw a box around all of your points and then just Command C to copy. And then I'm going to go down to here to the half moon, do a solid color layer. You can pick whatever color you want. It doesn't matter because we're going to hide that color, and just say okay. And then I'm going to paste. Nice thing is it memorizes exactly where you want to paste. Awesome. For this treatment, we don't need to have it be the front shape, the combined shape situation. We want it to still keep subtracting the front shape. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a drop shadow on this layer with the light coming this way so that we get a lot of shadow on that background. And with that shadow on the background, it's going to look like the background is going underneath the card. So, but I don't want this green, right? So I'm going to take the fill and I'm going to slide it all the way to 0. The reason why I choose fill is because if I choose opacity and I apply a layer style, the opacity impacts the layer styles. So if I have a drop shadow and I set it to 50%, I'll have 50% of that layer style drop shadow. So now we look at this, we just double click away from the name, come down to drop shadow. Now it's already set with my styles that I already put on it. And I look at it and I say, okay, my drop shadow is designing it all inside. And so this is where I actually do need to inverse my file because right now it's saying all this green that we had, the drop shadow is showing it to where we don't have information, which is right there. So we say, okay for right now. And it's really easy. All you do is you come here, press A, come back and do combine shapes. And now that we have that vector, now the green part, as you can see in the thumbnail, and if we increase the fill, our solid object in this digital world is this green pentagon or whatever shape that we have here, and it's casting a drop shadow using layer styles. So now that it's casting that drop shadow, Now I can come in here, take off the fill, click away or press escape. And it looks like we have a nice drop shadow right here coming onto our background. But what else do you see? You see that we have drop shadows all over our card, and it just looks funky and fake. Looks like a photoshopped F up. So what we need to do now is use a raster mask on this part. And the raster mask right here, press B to bring up our brush tool. You can also then now right click and choose what brush style you want. I love just simple diffuse, no hardness, and then the size I just adjust with my brackets as I need to. Oops. So now what we want to do is we want to paint away everywhere where we don't want a shadow. The problem is if I paint away it, the shadow doesn't go away. Look, it's like, the shadow keeps us like kind of moving. Now it's like under her, now it's on her chest, now it's on her face. If I do it, that's great. I could keep doing that. But as soon as I get here, oh no, I've wiped away my shadow right there. The way you don't have to worry about that is that you go to your layer styles and you say layer mask hides the effects. And I could also do vector mask hides the effects, but we don't want to do that. We want the vector mask to keep showing the effects. We just want to feather it with the layer mask now. So I say, okay, make sure I'm on the raster versus the vector shape because you can't paint on vector. And now I just take my brush and I carefully go through here. And sometimes it's nice to take off a really complex background and turn back on our white background to see where our shadows are. It's so much easier. Make sure opacity is all the way up and then you just feather it out. Now see how close I have to get to this? We'll shrink down my brush just so I don't impact that too much. Just kind of paint, soften it, get rid of that shadow that's lurking there, come down here, get rid of this. What would have been probably better is to make these vector lines longer up the card. That way I can just feather it softer so I can blend it back into the surrounding environment for the card. But there we go. I just kind of play around until it feels right, and then we can turn back on our graphic and zoom out just to get kind of the far view. Looks great. Looks awesome. And then I just turn back on my episode title, turn back on my logo, and I'm curious the difference between these two. So that's that one. That one, not much difference. I think I like my original a little bit better, but not by much. It's fine. And that's how you use layer masks and vector masks in Photoshop. Hopefully that was really helpful. Please subscribe. Please share this. You can join me on Facebook at Tech with T Gray. It's a closed group and it may become a paid only membership group in time. So if you want to join now, I highly recommend it. And thank you very much for watching, and I appreciate your time being with me today. Stay techie. Cheers.